Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going hunting for the newly released Origin Palkia and Origin Dialga in the Master League with my level 51 XERNEAS. At the start of the season, XERNEAS usage declined dramatically due to the Incinerate buff, making Ho-Oh king of the skies. However, with the Origin forms now releasing, XERNEAS is back in a massive way. Teams are wholly disrespecting it. There's teams double or even triple weak to it, and XERNEAS is absolutely feasting. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's go hunting for the Origin forms with level 51 XERNEAS. Hopping into the first match, and our target has been acquired, XERNEAS into Origin Palkia. Opponent save switches into his Hisuian Avalugg, which is not an amazing response to his XERNEAS whatsoever. So the opponent, completely core broken, fires off the Icy Wind. My attack is now debuffed, but close combat is still going to hit for massive damage. Opponent shields the first, but I can just throw another close combat right away. Are they really willing to double shield the Snowplow? Yes, they are. They are protecting the Avalugg. I'm heavily debuffed on the XERNEAS, but I can just switch out into the Palkia, and now my debuffs have been reset for later, and I can save the XERNEAS since it's obvious they do not have a good response to it. I do get debuffed with the Icy Wind on the Palkia. My opponent is going to take advantage of the desync timers and send in their final Pokemon, which is Altered Dialga. Dialga will get the farm down before I can make the Spatial Rend. I'm forced to settle for an Aqua Tail. That's not going to do much of any damage, but in this moment, I have 2 shields, a XERNEAS, and 2 of their 3 Pokemon can basically do no fast attack damage to my XERNEAS. So as long as I play my cards right, this is an extremely comfortable win. I'm looking to overfarm slightly and then go for the close combat. If they bring in the Avalugg, I can just switch out and reset the debuff, but if they send in the Palkia, they're not going to be able to farm me down. I'm able to make it to the Moonblast. This is going to be a goodbye to the Palkia, and now I can just switch into the Zekrom and reset the debuff, and this game is over. My opponent will be able to fire off a super effective Icy Wind. I continue to farm. They're going for another charge attack. I could just shield and farm down, but I decide, you know what? XERNEAS put in so much work. I'm going to let XERNEAS finish the fight. So I save the shield for the XERNEAS. XERNEAS makes the close combat. Opponent double shielded close combats on the Avalugg, but you can't shield the third, and I'm able to take the win. Moving into the next match, getting XERNEAS into an Altered Dialga. So not the Origin form we were necessarily looking for, but still a pretty good lead. They save switch into Mewtwo, and I can respond with the Origin Palkia. Origin Palkia can actually win the 2s versus Mewtwo, just straight Aqua Tail, which is incredibly nice information to have. I'm going to look to farm up quite a lot of energy and shield up the Psystrike, and then I'm going to look to farm up to the back-to-back Aqua Tails and begin to start applying pressure onto my opponent's shields. The Aqua Tail will be shielded, throw one more Dragon Breath, and another Aqua Tail. Timing matters quite a bit in this matchup. My opponent is going to commit the shield. I'm very low, but they're still having trouble Psycho cutting down. This is the bulk difference on the Origin Palkia versus the Altered, and I'm able to make it to the Aqua Tail. That's going to pick up the knockout. All shields are down, but I have 1 switch advantage. And they get no farm on the Dialga, just 1 Dragon Breath. I can send in the XERNEAS, go for the close combat, and this should do enough damage that I can farm them down with the Zekrom before they make the Draco Meteor. So I just switch right away. They stay in, but they cannot get to the Draco. I exit with energy, they have no shields left, and the opponent resigns the match. Moving into the next match, and there we go, right on cue, XERNEAS into the Origin form Dialga. Versus Dialga, when shields are up, I will always go Moonblast, as if you go Moonblast, you can very comfortably win the 0 shield always, whereas a close combat doesn't KO, and then an Iron Head will actually be able to knock you out. So I'm always going to Moonblast first. It's just by far the safer play. And now, if I want to, I can Moonblast, or in this case, I decide to save energy and go for the close combat. The close combat will be shielded. I can now switch in the Origin Palkia, and I think, wait, this is too early. This is not enough energy for a Roar of Time. So I let it through. I get the farm down. I've taken a lot of damage, but I exit with energy. They bring in a Landorus, and if Landorus is their best response to a loaded Origin Palkia, then they are in big trouble, and this very well could be a Ho-Oh in the back. I'm going to be shielding up with the Palkia as they fire off the Sandsear Storm, and right on cue, there's the Ho-Oh. I'm going to be able to make it to the back-to-back Aqua Tails. This is debuffed energy, but the good news is my switch timer is up. I can send in Zekrom, save the Aqua Tail for later on the Palkia, and now just use this as a damage sponge. they're forced to fire off resistant moves here. Either the Sacred Fire or the Brave Bird. Honestly, either one is okay by me. They're now going to fire off the Brave Bird. That gets me to 1 HP. I'm just going to let myself get farmed because I just want energy on the Origin Palkia. Palkia gets the farm down. They send in the Landorus, and Landorus just has nowhere to run. That's a Spatial Rend. Massive damage. Palkia able to get the farm down and take the win. Moving to the next match, another great lead for XERNEAS, leading XERNEAS into Kyurem. My opponent save switches into Landorus, and I get to respond with the Palkia. The Landorus save switch is extremely common because it's very, very strong. It's hard to have something that can consistently fight back, and that's where having something like the Origin Palkia can be very useful, as it's a Pokemon that can consistently fight back. My opponent commits the shield, so I'm more than happy to shield back. I've already just about gotten them below half HP, as we now see their health dip into the yellow, and I can fire off yet another Aqua Tail. Are they willing to go down all shields? Yes, they are! They are going down all shields here, and I have a choice to make, and I believe that I made the wrong choice here. I let it go, but I don't have an amazing way of farming them down without taking either quite a lot of damage on the XERNEAS or super effective damage on my Zekrom. I should have just shielded, as now I'm going to be able to pick up the KO, but I'm debuffed once in attack and 2 stages on defense, and in the back, they have their own XERNEAS, and I have found a way to possibly lose this game. My opponent can just go for a close combat at this point, so I see a win con. I'm going to catch the close combat onto the Zekrom. A close combat KO's there because I'm at -2 defense, but the opponent went for the Moonblast. There was no need to Moonblast there, but they go for it, and with that, this game just should have been a win, but unfortunately, it's just operator error on my part. They send in the Kyurem. I'm farming up and going for the Moonblast. Moonblast will be able to pick up the knockout onto Kyurem, but they're one off, and unfortunately, they're not in close combat range there, so they're going to be able to KO me with the close combat, and unfortunately, I lose the game. Hopping into the next match, looking for some redemption after that disaster of a last game, and we're right back on schedule leading into a Palkia Origin. The safe switch into the Landorus, and this time we're going to play it better. We're not just going to give up switch advantage and then let Landorus debuff one of our other Pokemon, because in this instance, just going for shield advantage honestly doesn't really do a whole lot. I would rather just keep the very favorable alignment that I have and not exit these matchups debuffed on one of my non-Palkia Pokemon. My opponent actually goes for the Stone Edge here, trying to potentially hope for a no shield, but I do end up shielding, and from this point, they're just going to be letting this through. They're going to send in their own Palkia. I can't make the Spatial Rend. I try and go for the Aqua Tail, but I do click it too late. In the back, it's Solgaleo. I can send in Zekrom, and at this point, the opponent realizes they have no good way of getting through that XERNEAS, so they resign the match. Moving into the next set, and we see a very nice lead, leading the XERNEAS into the Dialga Origin. What do you know? Safe switch Landorus, and Palkia is here. Palkia farming up, and again, timing in this matchup is so important. If you give Landorus consistent free mud shots, Landorus might be able to flip this. Whereas if you throw in good timing, Landorus is not going to be able to flip the evens as long as you switch in a timely manner. So I'm just going to fire off another Aqua Tail right before they're able to get to their move. Opponent is going to let that through. They can send back in the Dialga and go for farm, but honestly, I'm okay with that. My XERNEAS is still very healthy. My XERNEAS is not going to be knocked out by an Iron Head. I'm only able to make it to a heavily debuffed Aqua Tail, so that's going to do less than no damage. But instantly bringing back in the XERNEAS. XERNEAS farming up. They're going for the Iron Head, but I don't really think I care. I can absorb this damage. Iron Head not going to be a problem. In the back, it's the Palkia right on cue. So they're running ABA Origins, and oh boy, they are not having a good day now that they've seen XERNEAS. The XERNEAS about a 25% HP, but with only double resisted fast attacks, they have no good way of getting rid of the deer. XERNEAS over farming slightly. Moonblast picks up the knockout. Back in comes Dialga, and Dialga now it will be hit with a charge attack as well. Super effective close combat, picks up the knockout, and XERNEAS just sweeps the endgame. Moving to the next match, leading XERNEAS, what do you know? Another Origin Dialga. I was running a different team and I kept seeing the origins basically on every single team I was going up against. So I figured I may as well bring back XERNEAS, and it worked out incredibly well. Opponent makes a nice catch of a Moonblast onto Lugia. Another reason why I basically never go for a close combat in this situation, as a caught Moonblast is a lot less devastating because it still hits neutral into a lot than a caught close combat, which could be caught onto something like the aforementioned Lugia. Back in comes the Origin Dialga. Origin Dialga can't quite get the farm down as the Fusion Bolt is reached. This is resisted damage, but the opponent is going to commit a shield. That's very nice for me. I can send in the XERNEAS. I do survive an Iron Head. However, I'm up a shield, so I decide to commit a shield myself. They're firing off another Iron Head. They have so much energy here. I'm going to let this one through and then just look to farm up. In the back, they have Ho-Oh. In comes Origin Palkia, and this is just a win. I'm firing off the Aqua Tail. This will not knock out, but it does some very nice damage, considering that it is only an Aqua Tail that I'm throwing, and that move does not have high base damage. I can no shield as they fire off the Brave Bird. That's not going to be a problem. I'm going to get the farm down and leave with the Aqua Tail. Opponent is never going to be shielding this Aqua Tail. They know they have to preserve the shield for the potential close combat, but the bad news for them is I still have a shield, and I can just farm up with the XERNEAS to the back-to-back close combats, and at this point, it doesn't matter what the opponent does, the game is over, so they're just going to no shield and allow themselves to get KO'd. Picking up a bit of a tough lead in the next match, XERNEAS into Shadow Mewtwo. I have two better responses in the back, so I am going to save switch into the Origin Palkia. Shadow Mewtwo is going to stay in this matchup and fire off the Psy Strike. I decide to commit a shield. Shadow Psy Strike does quite a bit more damage than a regular. Opponent sends in a Dragonite, and of all things, they're running Dragon Tail. I don't think there's ever really a reason to run Dragon Tail on Dragonite. It's basically just worse as you can't decide when to time your charge attacks. My opponent will be able to pick up the knockout here with the Dragon Claw, but they undercharge it and allow me to make it to a Spatial Rend, and the Spatial Rend just picks up the KO. In comes the Mewtwo. Mewtwo is going to get the farm down. In comes Zekrom. Zekrom going to commit the shield, as of course Shadow Psy Strike does quite a lot of damage. Opponent in the back, they have Rhyperior, and Rhyperior is not going to be a fan of Outrage. These endgame situations are why I definitely think Outrage is superior compared to something like Crunch, as Outrage can actually force a shield, and now I can switch into the XERNEAS, and the opponent is not going to be able to make it to double Rock Wrecker before I make it to the close combat. And I can tank one Rock Wrecker just fine. That's not going to be an issue. And then my opponent is only going to be able to farm up 4 Psycho Cuts here, as I would make it to the close combat. So they're forced to throw energy, and then I can just farm down with the Zekrom and take the win. As the opponent, they have a little bit of residual energy, but it's not going to be enough. And that's game over. Great lead in the next match, XERNEAS into Palkia Origin. Our target has been acquired once again. The save switch into Solgaleo, and I make a big misplay. What I should do in that situation is stay in and go for the close combat. The opponent switching out of a lead, switch is guaranteed to take a turn there, so I can close combat one turn before they make it to a Psychic Fangs, guaranteeing some very valuable chip damage or a shield, and then I can switch out. But I switch into the Palkia right away, I'm down on energy, and the Aqua Tail plus Spatial Rend combo is not enough to knock out, meaning that my opponent is going to be able to win the zeros here. That's a bit unfortunate, but to be fair, this team as a whole is pretty good into the Palkia, so I'm just going to let this go and instead go for an aggressive Geomancy farm down. In comes the XERNEAS, but the opponent survives the second Geomancy on 1 HP, makes it to the Psychic Fangs, and things, oh man, the mistakes are just compounded in this game, but my opponent sends in the Palkia, so they are clearly still core broken by the XERNEAS. They switched in their only counter, so as long as I don't let them catch a Moonblast, I should be in still a pretty good spot. I'm going to be shielding up the Aqua Tails, going for the Moonblast, and the nice thing here is I will be able to outpace them. I'm going to get to my next Moonblast before they make it to their third Aqua Tail. All I have to do is watch for a catch. So I'm going to be shielding up. The XERNEAS is starting to get a bit low. I farm up, go for the Moonblast. I don't wait the turn, and it's caught onto Dialga. This is not game ending yet, but this will be tough. I send in the Zekrom. If this was altered, I could farm this down, but oh no, they're tankier on the Origin. They make it to the Iron Head. That gets me low. They get the farm down, and I've lost. I lost the misplays in this game. Oh my goodness, just misplay after misplay. This game felt so winnable, but unfortunately the execution was just not there. Moving into the next match, leading Xerneas into Mewtwo, a familiar lead. We just immediately switch out, and we're going to send in the Palkia Origin. Opponent sends in Dialga Origin. I'm farming up to the Spatial Rend, and I'm going to bait. If they no-shield the Spatial Rend, I can just win switch, so they're very likely to commit a shield there. They do not want a double shield, so they're forced to go for the Iron Head. If I really wanted to, I could shield and try and commit to a Spatial Rend, but I decide, you know what? Instead of that, I'm just going to save shields for the Xerneas. My opponent is going to fire off the Iron Head, trying to go for charge attack priority. I'm going to massively overfarm here to the back-to-back close combats, and this close combat is going to easily pick up the knockout. They can send in the Mewtwo, but I'm going to be able to outpace, make the Moonblast. They've already used one shield. Are they willing to go down both shields here? No, they are not. In comes the Zekrom. Will be met with a Psy Strike, but I'm up a shield. I'm more than happy to shield here. And now, in the back, they have Palkia. Palkia going to be firing off the Aqua Tail. I'm not going to throw a charge attack here. I believe my winning play is just to farm down. Zekrom versus Palkia. Zekrom gets the farm down. That's big. In comes the Mewtwo. I throw one Dragon Breath and the Fusion Bolt. I don't have a lot of HP left. Can I make it to the next Fusion Bolt? The answer is yes. Charge attack timing coming in clutch. Down goes the Mewtwo. And that is a good game. All in all, I had a massive amount of fun with this team, and this feels like a really good team if you're looking to make a final push to Legend. The Xerneas plus Palkia Origin combination is really good right now. Honestly, just Xerneas with a lot of different Pokemon is very good right now. So many teams are just wholly disrespecting Xerneas as an entity, and as long as you can dodge Ho-Oh, it's just incredibly good into so much of what's being played at the moment. So I definitely do recommend it. Initially, I was actually going to try Hydreigon as the third, but Hydreigon was just not doing what it needed to do, so I switched to Zekrom, and with the Zekrom, I had some very nice sets going forward. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated, so thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.